I'm Pete Hendricks. Welcome to my knife channel. So today I want to test edge retention between 14C28, 420HC, and 440A. Why? Well, 14C28 is well respected at lower price points. 440A and 420HC sometimes not as much. And so let's put it to the test and see. First, we have to set up a good test. And the key with testing is to eliminate as many variables as you can. And so this is not going to be a statistically valid test, though I still think it's a pretty good one. There are a couple of variables that I think do matter, and so I'm controlling those as well as I can. So we're going to be, I'll be using 3 different knives in this test. They're different knives, but the blade thickness and the amount of cutting edge is about the same. And I sharpened all 3 and, have them all sharpened to about the same area, same level. The next thing to know is cardboard is not all equal. And there's some cardboard that you'll only cut a little bit. And then there's, Amazon is probably the easy cardboard. Then we get some shipments in, that are relatively small boxes that weigh 50 pounds. Those you better be ready to do. You better be ready because they're hard to cut. And so I've got some here, and you can see in the picture, these are 3 boxes. These are identical boxes in a multi-piece shipment we received, and I've broken down half of each of the boxes, and we'll get ready and do some testing here and see what we find. Probably cut a half box with each of the knives, and we'll see where we are. We may move over to sisal at that point. So time to shred some cardboard. Notice how well these traditional pocket knives handle a moderate cutting task like cardboard. It's worth remembering that much of the Industrial Revolution was built by workers carrying simple pocket knives made from steels that would be considered basic by today's standards. To be clear, I'm not saying that 440A or 420HC can replace premium steels. My goal is simply to challenge the idea that their edge retention is somehow unacceptable. In real-world use, that's just not what I see. For most knife users, edge retention is the trait that matters most. Toughness is important in certain applications, though not everyday carry for most. Corrosion resistance matters if you don't want to wipe your knife after use. Now, getting back to the test, look at how thin most of these cardboard strips are. When you add up all the cardboard cut and then factor in the sisal rope, I think it's fair to say these knives delivered very respectable edge retention. And that's really the point of this video. Buying an American-made knife in 440A or 420HC does not mean that you're buying junk. In fact, embracing these steels opens the door to a whole world of traditional slip joint knives, as well as less expensive made in the USA knives. Now that we've cut all this cardboard, let's see how the edges are holding up. I forgot to record it, though these 3 knives were cutting through the paper towel very nicely before we did the cardboard cutting exercise. None of them are cutting it now. However, they all cut through thin waxy paper very well. Here's a graph from metallurgist Dr. Laren Thomas. His testing shows all 3 steels performing fairly close together, with 440A actually coming out on top. He has both the expertise and equipment to conduct controlled testing, so I trust his results completely. My results were a little different. The 14C28 pulled ahead of the other 2, which highlights some limitations in my test. blade geometry may have given the 14C28 knife an advantage in cutting sisal. There are likely other variables at play as well, like for example, Dr. Thomas heat treats the steels he tests himself, allowing for much tighter control. Even so, I think this test successfully demonstrated the main takeaway. 440A and 420HC provide perfectly reasonable edge retention for everyday use. As knife enthusiasts, we often become heavily focused on steel composition. I know I certainly did. But after falling in love with traditional pocket knives, I learned that these older steels perform far better than many people give them credit for. Why not give them a try? The best part is that knives using these steels are often very affordable. Thank you so much for watching.